You're listening to The Artist Athlete, episode 13, mama. This podcast is dedicated to circus. It's for people with careers in the circus industry to share their experiences, viewpoints, and information, and for outsiders to get a sneak peek into our world. I'm Shannon McKenna. I'm the host of the Artist Athlete podcast and the founder of theartistathlete.com. My guest today is Anke Van Engelshoven, a dancer, aerialist, and mother. After she built a successful career as a performer, traveling the world, creating art, and working for Cirque du Soleil, she decided to have a different type of adventure. She had children. When she went to return to her performing career, she realized there were limitations her old contacts now assumed about her, and she had to face judgments that her society puts on working mothers. In response to these obstacles, Anke founded the circus company Still Hungry with two other acrobats, Lena Rees and Romy Siebert. Her company received funding from the Chameleon Theater in Berlin for research and development of their first full-length show, Raven. Raven explores the effects of motherhood and aging on the careers of cisgendered women in the circus industry. Here's my interview with Anke Van Engelshoven. Anke.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you for coming. Can you say your last name for me? So
Yeah.
I have it on recording.
Van Engelshoven.
Van Engelshoven.
It's a Dutch name.
Ah.
Yeah.
Are you Dutch?
No, my grandfather is from Netherlands.
Okay. Gotcha.
Was.
Was. And are you from Germany?
Yes, I'm from Germany.
Okay. Where did you grow up?
In Bonn.
In Bonn.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's close to Cologne, the ex-capital. And I grew up there and I moved to Berlin when I was 19. So it was 98.
Okay.
Long time ago.
And when did you start circus?
In 98, when I moved to Berlin, I went to the Etage, to the circus school here. And I thought to study dance for a while because I did dance before when I grew up. I did some ballet and some jazz. And then I thought before I start to study, I do a little dance education, but not really to become a dancer, just for fun. And then I started, and there was acrobatic teacher, and he said, "Come to the acrobats, it's better. You make more money." And then you have a double qualification. You can work as dancer and as acrobat. And then I just did this because I saw a show from the students from the school, and the acrobats were so cool, and the dancers were so boring.
Yeah. Acrobats are way cooler than dancers.
Totally. I was like, okay, that's the way I want to go. And then I got stuck there in a way.
Yeah.
I continued until I did my in-between test, like after 1.5 years, Zwischenprüfung. And then I still thought maybe I study. And then in the end, I stayed there and became an acrobat. I didn't really know before what is an acrobat doing, and I wasn't really connected to that field at all. Like as a child, I went to the circus and I liked it, but I was never thinking that I would be able to do that. So this whole world of cabarets or Cirque du Soleil then was totally unfamiliar to me. So it was really like I discovered a completely new field.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you study in school? What was your discipline?
In the acrobatic school?
Yeah.
It started with a general education, and then I specialized on aerial, on the straps.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you started off on straps.
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
But the way I do straps is very dancey. Like like how you say? Back then, I had a partner, another woman, and we developed this act like a synchronized dance on straps, and it was really less straps technique and more like a very aesthetic movement quality. And yeah, we worked with this act for 7 years, traveling. So that was my first main specialization.
Nice. Yeah, specialization works, totally. Where did you travel in those 7 years? Was it in the cabarets? Or?
Yeah, we did a few cabarets. Stuttgart, Bensheim. I never did DOP, so I think I'm the only one in Germany.
You're okay. I don't think you're missing anything.
And then we went to Budapest to the festival. We went to China once, and then we went to India to a circus. That was my only traditional circus experience I ever made.
In India?
Yeah.
What was it like in India?
It was great and
Yeah?
horrible at the same time. It was very, adventurous. It was really like a big tent with animals and children working, so in a way awful.
Whoa.
Yeah, but they had this special European Western acts they bought.
Yeah.
It was an English guy who organized it. And that time I had a knee surgery, and for us it was just great to get back to work, and we had 3 shows a day. So for us it was a bit of a training camp / traveling experience. And I think it was great that we did it. It was a nice experience, and it was really extreme from the weather. Sometimes it was wet and muddy, and then later on it was super hot, and we were dying in the tent with the elephants and the children. Yeah, but yeah, it was great to just experience that, and it was the only circus experience. And the same year we went to Cirque du Soleil, so it was like also 2 very extreme.
Wow, so you went from a traditional circus in India to Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I lost my partner then, because she had a shoulder surgery.
Okay.
She had to go back then to Germany to make a surgery, and I had a replacement partner. But it was based on our act. We did a bit of new things, and then I worked 3 years for Cirque du Soleil.
What show were you on?
Windhoek.
Okay.
It was a seasonal show,
Yeah.
Christmas show in New York.
Yeah.
And we always went to Montreal in the autumn, and then the winters we worked in New York. It was also a very amazing experience.
I bet. How did Cirque du Soleil find you?
In Budapest on the festival, on the circus festival, they had a scout there and they saw our act, and I think they once asked us for Delirium, but then we were in another contract and we couldn't do it, and then a bit later they came back to us with this offer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was, very, it's very spoiling, I find, coming from the circus and coming from long years of working in Germany. I mean, I worked a lot in the Chameleon. That was a bit my home stage growing up. 20 years ago, it was the midnight shows I started, and then 15 years ago, I was employed also for a while. I did like 2 shows which ran for a year, and then I always changed Chameleon, Cirque du Soleil, Chameleon, Cirque du Soleil. And Cirque du Soleil is very, you don't have to, you have everything.
You have everything.
Like you have everything they take care of, like you have your physiotherapist waiting when you come off the stage, you have your massage, they do your tax.
They do your taxes?
Yeah, they do your taxes.
What?
And
I didn't know that.
They transfer the money, you don't have to write receipts. It's like I felt a bit like a student in boarding school, which was kind of nice, but on the other hand, I was happy not to do this for 3 years straight.
Sure.
I think maybe I would have been a bit too old for that. I always enjoyed to come back to my life here and my house and my different work, because it's such a strong hierarchy also with Cirque. Mm-hmm. Yeah, although, it's great people, and I really appreciate that I had the chance to experience it. And it was New York City, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool that you were on a show that had a residency somewhere. So you had like a town and you probably knew it. Where in New York did you stay?
We stayed Upper East Side.
Nice.
In apartments.
Yeah, nice.
Super nice. And the show was in the Madison Square Garden, in the theater, which has 5,000 seats.
Yeah.
But it's kind of,
not bad.
It was like not so, it was kind of a small theater from the ceilings. Mm-hmm. It was just 6 meters, I think, and not like they usually have this high tents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. When did you have your kids? When did the family come in?
The family came in almost 7 years ago. My son will turn 7 in the summer next month. So yeah, that was the time where I worked in the Chameleon. I was supposed to go back to Cirque for the last year, for the 4th year, and then I didn't do that because I knew I wanted to get pregnant, and then I got pregnant, and I worked until the 3rd month pregnant.
Okay.
In the Chameleon with Lena.
Yeah, nice.
And Romy.
Oh, wow.
My colleagues from Raven. And
so you worked for 3 months doing your straps number, and then after 3 months you decided it was like you wanted to stop
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. The show started already, I think, 6 months or I don't remember, a few months before, and then I got pregnant, and then I think it's a good point in pregnancy to stop, because then it just becomes too big and a bit too dangerous. And I felt also like, okay, I'm changing, my body's changing, I had enough. I wanted to concentrate on the pregnancy rather on keep on working.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's quite nice at the Chameleon too, I hear, because you're an employee there. When you actually have maternity leave.
Exactly. But that was especially for me, because it was a bit of an experiment. Then Tobias, that was my next male partner. I had a straps act with him. We both were employed, so I really got money until the pregnancy. And after, I had Elterngeld, which is great in Germany. You get this help from the government.
Really?
Yeah.
What is the help? Can you explain it a bit? Yeah.
Yeah, that is it. They look at your income from before, the year before you got pregnant, and then you get a part, like 75%, I think, from the money. It's a bit complicated if you're freelance, but in my case, then it was easy. They just calculate a percentage from your salary, and you get it for a year.
Wow.
Unless you want to share with your partner, then there's different variations, but you have a nice support here.
That's really nice.
I mean, there's an upper stop, like if you've made a lot of money, you don't...
Sure.
I mean, yeah.
That makes sense. So you had your first kid 7 years ago. What's his name?
Liam.
Okay, nice. And did you go back to work after you had him?
Yeah, straight away, in a way, because then it was a time where I did my first creation with Romy and Lena. We called ourselves C4. We had another woman, Julia, she worked with us. And yeah, we planned it, I think, already when I was pregnant. It was clear we have this month blocked where we have the creation, and I was still breastfeeding. And the grandmother flew in from Israel and helped us with Liam.
Wow.
And then we had these weeks of creation. And yeah, that was different than to work.
Yeah, what was it like coming back? It must have been crazy.
Yeah, totally. I mean, somehow it worked okay, but still the body changes so much. But it was okay because it wasn't going back to like a cabaret job, where I thought it would be much more challenging. Like this, it was more of a creative time to develop different things, and I could do whatever I felt comfortable doing. So in a way, that was comfortable to go back to a creation and not to a big job paid where I felt I had to be in shape.
Yeah, where you have to be at like a really high technical level, right? You can kind of be like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but I feel it's changed. Like, I mean, I never did super risky technique things, but still, since I have kids, I'm more careful and I'm more afraid that something happens.
That was one of the questions actually a lot of people wanted to know, because I put out on Instagram, like, what should I ask?
Oh.
And someone asked, like, how has being a mother changed how you approach your work?
The other aspect, I think it's really tiring to have kids, and I feel like often I don't have so much energy anymore. At the same time, now when I train, it feels also really good, and I appreciate much more the training, and I feel it's more effective because I have shorter time, but if I train, I'm more effective.
How often do you train now?
Oh, it really depends what's the case. Like, yeah, I would still train with Tobias, my strap partner, but he also has 2 kids and he's working a lot, so whenever our schedules fit. And with Lena and Romy, with our creation, we trained now. We had a half year where we trained several weeks in that half year, and it will continue now. But it's a bit like I don't have a super regular training practice. I do my yoga like almost daily, so I feel this keeps me enough in shape. And then whenever something is scheduled, then I train.
So I want to definitely talk a bit about Raven.
Yeah.
Can you explain, because I don't think there's an equivalent in the US of this phrase or this idea of the, what is it in German? The
Rabenmutter.
Rabenmutter.
Rabenmutter. Yeah, in a way, if you translate it properly, it would be raven mother. Mm-hmm. So the term which is used here when people think you're neglecting your child, they call you a Rabenmutter. And usually they say it about somebody else, like, she's a Rabenmutter.
Yeah, you wouldn't say this to someone's face,
no?
Exactly. Okay.
And it's, I feel like it's very quick that people say it here. Like, whenever, it's very easy to be a Rabenmutter. There's very strict expectations here how a mother has to be. Much more, for example, than if I would compare to France, where it's very normal that kids go to a kindergarten when they're 6 months in a krippe, and that women go back to work, of course.
Yeah, sure.
And here it's easily people judge you. And it's a bit this image of you have to give up everything in order to be a good mother. You only have to buy bio-organic food and the best stroller with no, I don't know. Yeah, and the best is to breastfeed your child 3 years, and yeah, there's a lot of expectations. That was this topic we wanted to deal with. It's a very German topic.
Sure. I thought it was really cool because I think there are parallels in the US. I'm not a mother, so I don't really know or feel those pressures. But from my friends who are mothers, I do hear that it's very similar in the US, that there are these pressures too. Especially for women, I think it's really interesting that there's not the same pressure for men to pay attention to their children.
Exactly. Yeah, nobody would shout out if the man is going for 2 months to work somewhere because he has to bring the family. And if a mother would do this and the same support the family, it's still there's an aspect of how can she do this and leave her children alone, and what will be with the children, and it's really strict strict expectations. But it's also very wild. It can be in any direction. Like it could be like why don't you work, and the opposite would be why do you work already? Like you know, like it feels like people really like to judge whatever you do.
Yeah. I found actually the most interesting aspect, and a lot of people ask, how do you balance your kids and your work and that? But your act especially was about how you just wanted a cigarette and you just wanted to party. Yeah. And this was such an interesting approach too, because nobody asks like, how do you balance your kids, your work, and your fun time? Yeah. Do you know this freedom that you have when you don't have children? Yeah. How did that come about in the discussions, or how did all of these ideas come about when you were creating with Romy and Lena?
We are working with Bryony Kimmings, that's our director, and we had a first meeting in London where she lives, and we had a first brainstorm, and somehow because we chose the topic Rabenmutter, we ended up going through all the birds, because the opposite of a Rabenmutter would be like a hen, the Glucke, which is the other. Yeah, people would judge you because you're only dealing with your children and you give up everything. So it's hard to make it right here.
No, you can't win.
You can always only lose.
You can only lose. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, so then we had this idea to go through several birds and then several aspects of what interests us in the theme motherhood, and definitely one was like the nostalgic feeling of what do I miss from my old life. And then it came that I was like, this freedom of clubbing and going out without limitations and without guilt and without thinking about tomorrow, and however long the party lasts, doesn't matter. It's just you and yourself and not like a child you have to take care. And then the idea, developed with the clubbing scene, and I think it was Lena's idea with the cigarette. She was like, it would be cool if you have a cigarette. I'm like, I was a heavy smoker. In my past, I don't smoke anymore, but it was like interesting for me because there was definitely also an issue with like smoking, feeling guilty with the kids, since I have kids. Mm-hmm. And I managed to stop smoking, to bring it back as a symbol for...
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
That's so hard. Stopping smoking is so hard.
Are you smoking?
Not currently. Okay. I go through phases, I feel like. But this time of year is the best time to smoke because it's so nice outside and you can just sit in the park and have a cigarette. This podcast is brought to you by The Artist Athlete. Did you know that The Artist Athlete is more than just a podcast? It's a growing online resource for students of the aerial arts to deepen their journey to badassery by accessing techniques approved by physical therapists and master coaches in the industry. Our current spotlight is on the fundamentals of aerial alignment, a practical manual for hanging upside down. This online manual is a step-by-step guide. It is complete with photos, videos, and exercises that you can implement immediately to help you gain the strength and awareness you need for an aerial practice that promotes shoulder health and longevity and good posture upright, so you don't walk around like a gorilla. But don't just take my word for it. Here's circus physical therapist Dr. Jen Crane of Cirque Physio to tell you more.
The fundamentals of aerial alignment is an absolute must-have for every aerialist of every level. I can't even tell you how many shoulder injuries I treat that are a direct result of rushing past the basics and attempt to get a trick too soon. In the manual, Shannon deconstructs the fundamentals, including the correct muscular engagement to safely arrive in these positions and the rationale for why it matters. Of course, in addition to all of these fabulous pearls of wisdom, the book is also ridiculously fun to read. It's been lovingly garnished with the Shannon humor we all know and love.
Thanks, Jen. Cirque Physio is also featured in the book to give scientific insight into why it all works. Pick up your copy today by going to theartistathlete.com and clicking e-manuals. Listeners of the podcast can get a 10% discount by typing in the offer code PODCAST at checkout. Again, that's theartistathlete.com, offer code PODCAST. Now, back to the show. So you went through this whole creation process, and then what's coming up next for Raven?
The next is in 2 weeks I will go to Berlin with Romy to a residency we have. It's a castle out of Berlin. We got another residency there to use the studio, and we can sleep there and they give us food, which is nice, and we can keep on working. And then Bryony Kimmings will come back to Berlin, and Lena will come back from London, and then we have another creation period in Berlin. And then finally we will have our premiere in the Berlin Circus Festival in the summer.
Cool.
Tempelhofer Feld. So that's our goal we are preparing for, and then we have another gig lined up in Jackson's Lane in London in September.
And what do your kids do when you're doing these creations?
Luckily, both are now, like my son is in school now and my daughter is in the kindergarten. So this time from 9 to 4 is our main working time. And yeah, because Lena and Romy, they all have kids. So this is for us all the main time we can work. And then, my husband compensated a lot when I had longer rehearsals. And when I will leave now to Berlin, he will do the childcare after the kindergarten and school. It's a bit, we don't have grandparents here, we don't have family here to support us, which makes it a bit more complicated. And we have a few babysitters helping out sometimes. But still, like, if it's okay to arrange, but there's always, we had the sentence in the creation, like, we have to expect everything, like everything is possible, like everything can change because at least one child is always sick or something happens, a school call, somebody had an, totally. You're never sure. It will for sure be different than planned. So I hope it will be okay.
So the other thing I thought was interesting about Raven that I loved was that it was 3 women on stage and you were creating it and talking about these issues that are very much gender specific and haven't really been addressed in the circus context before that I've really seen. I don't know if you had any kind of inspirations or anybody to go off of, but
no,
I definitely, and this is a big conversation right now with having only, I think it was 3 women in demand this year, 3 artists who were women. And so it's really cool to see people on the forefront of that. And it was interesting because I was talking to Bertan actually about this. And he was like, that's so brave that they did it. And I was like, well, I don't know. Did you feel any kind of fear or did you just want to make a piece about motherhood?
It was a bit...
That was a terrible question, actually.
No,
Do you kind of know
I tried to answer it anyway.
Sometimes I have these questions in my head and I'm like, I want to ask, like, there's no precedence for what you're doing, right? So how could you create it, or what were your inspirations?
I think that was mainly our director, Bryony Kimmings, who does pieces like this, which are extremely provocative and having always a big meaning of political, or her piece, her latest piece was about depression, male depression, fake it till you make it. And I think it also, it was partly uncomfortable, but also very eye-opening and very touching. And that's her style to make pieces. And this aspect of gender and a bit of the rebellion against the circus industry came, I find, a bit later in the creation. It added on. It wasn't really our plan in the beginning. Also, like in the beginning, we thought it would be more so about our mothers and our partners. But in the how we went with Bryony Kimmings, it just developed like this. That it was in the end, we feel supported by our partners, and it's often just the industry which sucks, or which
it really does suck.
Yeah, totally. And like the images you have to fulfill and the work conditions you have to. That it's like, yeah, we're not treating you respectful as a woman and as a mother.
One of your voiceovers was this call from your agent, right? Who was like, "You're still fit, right? And they say they want someone 22, but you look young." These kinds of things. Was that based on a real call that you got?
It was a bit, we made it up, but there were aspects, like for example, Lena had this case that some director called her, and he knew, I mean, obviously he knew she had a second child, and he really asked that. He was like, do you look the same? And yeah, it's definitely true points in it.
Yeah, these things they would never ask him.
Yeah, and like also like little flexibilities, and like if you want to bring a child, you always have to, of course, yeah. Sorry. But yeah, it's not very family friendly and sometimes really hard to integrate with your family. And like even like to share contracts, maybe to not make it as long, or finding like creative solutions how to make it a bit possible to work as a mother. It's really limited.
That's super unfortunate too, because I feel like you also hear of these men who have these very long careers, but women's careers in circus as artists are not so long. And I wonder if that's because of motherhood or because of age, or or if it's a bit of everything.
Yeah, I think a bit of everything. And also of the image of a woman, like mainly an aerialist or contortionist, that it's really like you have to be young and beautiful, or you become funny. It's very like limited options.
So how did you then, because you don't have these archetypes to go off of, you're all very like funny, beautiful women, but you're not playing ingenues anymore. So the characters have to be a bit more autobiographical, I think, because you don't have these archetypes to draw from anymore. Because in circus, what we see on stage is like young, beautiful girls or funny girls. Yeah. So it's like you have to create this whole other vocabulary for the audience to get on board with. Were you aware of that as you were making it? No. What do you think, when you were making it, what was the creation process like? Did you think a lot about story? Did you think a lot about personal experience?
Yeah, it was a bit... I mean, we had the first meeting with Bryony, and she's like, you tell her a bit about yourself, so it's based on personal. She never really makes something up. I mean, maybe she adds something, but like the root is really like whatever you tell her. And she took this, and we found this sort of a storyline. And then we went back to Berlin, and we started to create scenes and worked on the movements. And then Bryony came back later after we developed all this material, and then she went back to make it more like to follow the narrative line, and which we will continue. I mean, it's not ready yet, not finished yet, the piece, but I mean, her main focus is she wants to make a circus piece with us, which is telling something important.
Yeah, totally.
And this is her main goal. She doesn't care so much about circus and the movement because she comes from performance, but still we are circus performance, so we will definitely bring this back in a bit stronger, our movement language.
What was the hardest part of the creation?
I think to trust Bryony with her new style. Like it felt like it's very provocative and new for us, and she's really like breaking the box. And different because she's not a circus director and not a dance director. She comes from narrative. For me, it was talking in a microphone and talking on stage. I mean, we just have this one sentence so far live to talk about. This is really definitely something new to me. where I felt very vulnerable. Yeah, a bit. Our goal was to do it different, like to do something new. I mean, yeah, just move on and find a new way of doing circus.
What was the easiest part of it?
I think the easiest is to work with Lena and Romy because we're so familiar and we're so good friends, and really working with each other works so good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's really pleasant, and we feel so safe with each other. And even if one has a bad day or doesn't feel good, I feel very supported and we're like a good match, I find. We always do different things and then it's adding up and we're able to do it together, which is great. Yeah. And yeah, to work with Bryony is really, it was because of the residency, because of the money we got and that we could choose her. I felt like it was really a fantastic chance to do something new.
What did your kids think of the show?
They didn't see it, actually. They were backstage.
Oh, they were backstage the whole time?
Just Romy's two boys, they watched the show because they're a bit older. Mine were like, yeah, we'd rather watch TV like Lena's. And actually, I was pretty nervous, so I was actually happy that they weren't watching the show. And then they came in just for the last bit where they came on stage, and they were super excited about that. They were very happy. Liam told it in school that he was able to go on stage and he was super proud, but also a bit shy. And yeah, I don't know, maybe they will see the premiere in the summer then. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering how you guys are going to do it because it's such a nice final moment when they come on and like everybody in the audience was just like, oh, like our hearts melted. You know,
that's funny because it was really like an experiment. We thought it's cool to try it because it was a showing and we could do whatever we wanted. It wasn't like we have a premiere and we were like, okay, we have to try it. And it was like on the border to be very cheesy. But on the other hand, it made sense from the final feeling we wanted to leave. We don't want to moan about everything in the industry, but I mean, we also wanted to do that, to shout out what we have to complain. But in the end, we like the people should see, it's more like motivating and strengthening and full of energy and power and integrating both worlds. And yeah, we have to do compromises and live compromises. Not everything is possible anymore, but it should be the strong women, like what we said, like we wanted this Rabenmutter to take away this condemning aspect and rather show the beauty of it. Like you can do both.
Yeah. You can have it all.
You can have it all.
And your cigarette too.
Once in a while.
Every once in a while. Just when the weather's nice, right?
Exactly.
So something I always ask at the end of every interview is, what advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your career?
That's a good question.
Thanks. Usually most of my other questions are better too. I don't know why it's so. I think because these topics are really sensitive. Yeah. Even as I'm sitting here like, what's it like to be a mother? How do you feel? You know, like it's kind of super personal to ask because motherhood becomes so much a part of your identity.
Yeah.
So to ask someone about their experiences or what they feel like they have to defend or what they feel like they're making is, as an interviewer, kind of odd. But this question is like about you as an artist, you know, and maybe also as a mother. What advice? Maybe we do it both ways. So, what advice as a circus artist would you have given yourself, or wish you had had at the beginning of your career?
I think I would advise myself to even enjoy all the traveling part more, as long as you're free to do it, and enjoy nightlife and your option of choices. But also to be, I mean, I had a couple of injuries. I had a time in the beginning of my career where I was like, mainly I was injured on my knee and I didn't really take care for it because I didn't want to have a surgery. So I waited too long and then my knee was really broken, much more than it should be because I should have just taken care in the beginning. So if I would do it again from the beginning, I think I would definitely be very sensitive to my body, even from the beginning, and develop this gentleness earlier, better earlier than later.
Did you expect these difficulties or these feelings around motherhood before, when you got pregnant or before?
Not really. I think I was a bit, I mean, in a way, I worked a lot. Like I feel like I was pregnant in a time in my life where I was starting to be a bit tired of traveling and working, and I was almost happy to have something else. And it's also probably the reason.
How old were you when you...
34.
Okay.
I think.
When you had your first kid, you were 34.
Yeah, 33, something like that. Don't remember. And so I feel like I had my long chapter of working and traveling, and I was ready to have something else. And I really also enjoyed it. I enjoyed the pregnancy. I enjoyed the first time. And it was clear that I wouldn't... I mean, I was also lucky that I was able, because my husband worked, like... I was able that I wasn't forced to do GOP right after the birth, you know, like just to survive. So that's kind of lucky. But I wasn't prepared. I think it was much more difficult than I would have expected it. Because, there's a big gap. I feel like you're also out of the scene easily. When you're not performing, you're not getting any jobs, because most jobs you're getting through performing, and somebody sees you, or you're having new videos, new photos, new Instagram.
Right.
So I felt this really drastically, because I wasn't pushing so super hard to get back, that I really lost the connection to the industry. And this, I wasn't really prepared, that it's going so quick that you're not on anyone's radar anymore. Totally. And then you're a mother. I mean, I think there's definitely a big aspect to is she able to do it? It feels like, I think for an employee, it feels more complicated working with a mother, because there could be anything.
Yeah.
The child is sick and she cannot do the show, or she has to travel with 3 more people, with 2 kids and a babysitter. So it's always more a headache instead of a young free artist.
Yeah.
So that was unexpected, and I feel that was another big topic of of our creation of our show, was like, we want to talk about it, and we want to talk about it, that it's fucking difficult, but it's also beautiful, but it's also difficult. And that's also like a tendency in Germany. You're spending time with all these mothers on the playground, but nobody really speaks honestly about the feeling. It's usually about diapers or pacifiers or baby food, but nobody really speaks about how do I feel and what do I miss. And like, if you would say, I miss going out and clubbing until the morning, I'm sure like the normal mothers would just give me a look and be like, okay. And you know, like there's a sense of tension and being afraid of speaking out, and that was one of the main goals, to say it out loud.
It's great.
Yeah.
And show it too.
Yeah, show it. Yeah.
And now you've got your own definition in the industry.
Yeah.
Making your own show.
Yeah, which is great. I'm super excited where it's going. I mean, it's one part to do this creation, and then the next big part will be the reality of it. Are we able to show it, to sell it, to travel with it?
Right.
It's complicated, but in a way, I'm confident that we will find our way to perform it. I mean, it's probably in the beginning, it's more festivals, and then see if it's able to. I mean, if it attracts audience, or if the audience wants to see a very peaceful, calm piece of circus, which is aesthetically beautiful and not so much rebellious.
Right. I think that people will want to see it.
Yeah.
I think that and I see this all over the place, is that people who run advertising and people who run the industry, they forget about women a lot. They forget about our points of view. Yeah. They forget that they're also in the audience. They forget that they're also mothers, and that those women also have money. Yes. And they also have time, and they also usually are the ones dragging their husbands to these festivals to see theater, to see all of this.
Yeah, that's true.
So I definitely think there's a market for it.
That's great. And it was just a showing, but the response, the strongest energetic response was from women, that they really felt so touched, and they motivated us to continue, that it's the right way, and that was so beautiful to feel that. And men, they had more their issues with it.
What were some of the issues that the men had?
For some, it wasn't like poetic enough.
It wasn't not poetic enough.
Or not calm enough. I mean, not beautiful enough. Exactly where we are at the point. Exactly hitting the point. I think for some it was uncomfortable, and there's this. It's a bit sensitive. Maybe it's just maybe in the continuous development we will make it that it's less uncomfortable for them, because I think for them it was a bit too private for some men. Interesting, yeah. And maybe this will change anyway on the way, and I mean when the piece is finished. But yeah, don't really know.
It was too private and made them uncomfortable. Oh, poor men. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just like, well. But your audience, I mean, obviously you want to reach everyone and be able to tell your story in a way that will include everyone. So
exactly. It wasn't like we didn't want to make a show for women, but I'm super happy. Like the tendency of that women are with us. And I felt it in the show, during the show, and I felt it after. We got so much feedback and good strengthening comments from women, where I'm super happy with that.
Awesome. Yeah,
it's my favorite audience.
Sweet. I was happy to be in it. Great.
Super.
Well, thank you so much. I think we're gonna
Ended there.
Unless there's anything else you want to add. So are you, actually, I want to ask this, just in case. So are you entirely funded by the Chameleon and this other residency you're doing? You're getting all of your funding for creation through these organizations?
So far, yes. So we got the first residency from the Chameleon. This is done now. That was half a year. And now we have the residency in Berlin, which is just, it's not money. It's just like you can use the studio and the accommodation. And then, we're in a talk with the Chameleon if they support us, like if they produce us, and it's in the development, or we have to find other fundings. Mm-hmm. If this doesn't happen, we need something to continue the piece.
Thank you for coming on the show, Anke. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
That was my interview with Anke Van Engelshoven. I edited the end of this interview in a particular way because about a week after the interview, Anke messaged me to let me know that the Chameleon had pulled their funding entirely from Raven. And so for the project to now continue, Anke, Lena, and Romy have to find other forms of funding. They created a Kickstarter campaign to continue rehearsing and get their show produced again. So, if you want to help support the work of women in contemporary circus, you can go to still-hungry.net and find their Kickstarter campaign. Or you can just Google Still Hungry Raven, and their Kickstarter should be the first link that pops up. You can give as much or as little as you can, and every little bit really helps the show out. I also want to do something a little different this week. Instead of trying to synthesize some key points for you all, I want to continue this discussion of motherhood and circus after this episode ends. I'm interested in your reflections after hearing Anke's interview. This podcast is downloaded all over the world, from Germany to the US to Australia, to Argentina. Hola. And I'm interested in the experiences of those who are mothers or fathers, and also circus artists. Whether you're recreational or professional, what effect does having children have on your expression and your art form? So, if you want to share, you can send an email to info@theartistathlete.com with the subject line Raven, so I can kind of organize my inbox. Again, it's info@theartistathlete.com, subject line Raven. And in a couple of weeks, I want to do a follow-up episode where I'll read some of the responses. You can make them totally anonymous if you don't want to share your name, or even if you don't want me to read it on the air, but want to share, just let me know in the email. And that's it for this week's episode. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast. There's a new episode every Monday. And leave a rating and review. It really helps me out. Find Anke and the rest of the Still Hungry team again at www.still-hungry.net or follow them on Instagram at stillhungry_raven. As for me, you can find me as always on the gram at _artist_athlete. Visit my website, theartistathlete.com. And if you're a super fan, get on the Facebook and join the group Friends of the Artist Athlete Podcast. I'll be making some additional announcements there in the next coming weeks. That's it for me, friends, fans, and enemies. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next Monday.